Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the weather outside, but what we're going to do today is take a little trip down to the basement and the citrus garden. So let's leave this winter behind. This is kind of the coolest thing though about having a citrus garden is you can go from this kind of setting and very quickly, before you know it, walk down a little flight of stairs and you are in the citrus garden, which looks a lot different. So here's our citrus garden. It's been a little bit since I showed it. I thought I would kind of check in, show everybody what's going on. These are the lights that I use for the seedlings. I mentioned in that seedling setup video. These are the 4-foot version. That's the only difference. The seedling ones I use are 2 feet just because of the shelf. But they work great for these trees, and these trees are really happy down here, as is this rosemary plant. One of the coolest things about having a citrus garden is in the wintertime, now you have to find a place for it, so that is an issue, especially when you have like 16, 17 trees like we do. But the coolest thing about it is that weather outside is going on, and meanwhile, we're about to pick some mandarin oranges. We just made a video on that, so that'll be up soon, showing those and kind of doing a little taste test. There's limes growing down here, there's lemon blossoms. It's just a cool thing. So there's just nothing more fun than, you know, in the middle of winter when it's so white and cold and just kind of depressing, honestly. Our winters are so long sometimes up here. When you can come down and you're picking limes and lemons in your own house, or your own basement, or wherever you keep your plants. Just a really cool thing about having citrus trees. I mean, look at this, is kind of a panoramic here of this area. Now, I went a little overboard, as I do with most things, and as many of us gardeners do. You know, you collect one, and you get another, and another, and another. I'll probably cull a couple of these that aren't so healthy. Not these. These are my feijoas. I'm really excited about these. These are really cool plants. Still got some clover or something in there from being outside. But last year, some of these feijoas flowered. They didn't get fruit, but I'm hoping, these are pineapple guavas, another name for them. I'm really hoping we get some because it's been years since I've had a feijoa. They're so good if you've never had one. I hope to make a video on them later and show you and talk all about it. This lime tree is kind of gangly looking. It was one I got from, I think, Tractor Supply or somewhere, but it's going. This variegated calmandins are a really cool plant. Calmandins are they're another really easy citrus to grow, just like satsuma. There's the fruit, they look like little kumquats almost. They're like little orange limes, essentially. That's the best way to describe them. They're sour like a lime, but they're really good. I just eat them whole, too, because the skin is kind of sweet. It's sort of like a kumquat in that way. But calmandins are another really easy one to grow if you want to make sure you get some harvest. This is a Thai finger lime. I'm excited about this because I've never tried one. I've seen them, they look cool. I've seen them online, so I'm hoping we get some there. These are lemon blossoms. The whole basement, that's another cool thing about when you have a citrus garden in the wintertime is you know, in this case, walk downstairs in the basement and all you smell is citrus flowers. It's so strong. All of these lemon blossoms, there's really, if you've never smelled citrus blossoms, it's hard to exactly describe. They have a very, very sweet smell. And it, like in your room, wherever they are, they're going to fill that whole room with that smell. It's really, really nice. Whether it's lemons or oranges, they all kind of smell the same to me. They're really nice. But those are all lemon blossoms. So if we come around to the back here, this is a kumquat, at least that's what it said on the tag. I got this on clearance, I think at Tractor Supply. It was a tiny little tree, and thing's gotten huge. But these fruit do not look like kumquats, really. They're bigger than you think kumquats would be. And the flavor is more like just a straight-up lime, even though they're yellow. A lot of limes turn yellow when they're ripe, but they're good for the lime. I just use them as a lime, so there's no issue there. So they're really cool. I like the variegated trees. I get a couple of them, like that variegated calmandin. That was a really fun one. We also, I'll show in a minute, we have a variegated pink lemon I got, I think also I think it was Tractor Supply that had them. They haven't had them, and then all of a sudden the last couple of years, Lowe's and Tractor Supply have all kinds of citrus around here. So these are the lights. I have 8 of them. There's kind of 2 sets of 4. This is the tag on them, so you know, they're 45 watts a piece, so 180 watts a set, so it's 360 watts total, and I just have them in a timed power strip to come on. I think they're on 14 hours a day down here, so works really well. The other thing is these citrus trees seem to really, really like the cold basement. We don't have heat in our basement, so it's like 45, 50 degrees down here most of the winter, and these trees thrive in that temperature. And I noticed when we had our apartment, before we bought our house, we rented an apartment for a long period of time, and the back room was kind of like a Three Seasons room. It was an addition, and it had windows all around, and that's where we did all of our seedlings and stuff. And citrus trees too, but in the winter that room would also be like 50 degrees, 55 degrees, and the citrus did amazing in there. So I think there's something to it. They like the cool temperatures. If you bring them upstairs into the house, they drop their leaves, they don't seem happy, they get bugs in them, all kinds of problems. Down here in the nice cold basement, they just love life. So now I don't think they would like cold. We're talking this basement's 45, 50 degrees, maybe 40 degrees at the lowest. So they're not in like cold, freezing temperatures or anything like that. So I wouldn't, I'm not saying to make them actually cold, but if you have a place like an unheated basement that's above freezing, and these lights do give off some warmth, so this area is probably like 50-ish degrees, 48 degrees most of the time. They're very, very happy in that. Of course, they love summertime too. Well, let's give them a little bit of water. I figured, I'm going to water these. I use this Jack citrus feed stuff, so we're going to just go ahead and give these citrus some water. Ignore our old basement. Our house is 115 years old, so it's an old basement, but this stuff is great. You just use like a scoop per gallon. That's what I do. I do the outdoor dosing. You got to feed your citrus trees. That's, if you want them to be successful, you can't just water them. You've got to give them fertilizer as well. I fertilize them every time I water them. So every like 2 to 3 weeks I water them. So once every 2 to 3 weeks in the wintertime. And then in the summertime, the rain is going to water them, but I fertilize them every 2 weeks in the summertime too. Just because the containers, the containers that they're in are going to get flushed with all the rain in the summer. So it's more for the fertilizer. And in the summertime, I will use a hose so that I can spray the leaves with the fertilizer, because they'll take fertilizer up in the leaves too. But in the winter, I just use a bucket and, water them that way. Kind of the old school, non-technical way. Just give them a little stir with a stick, make sure that fertilizer gets mixed up. I like this this Jack's citrus feed stuff because it has a nice balance. Citrus like a lot of nitrogen, so you got to make sure they have that. One thing I wanted to mention while I'm doing this here and kind of trying to figure out how to water and film at the same time, I just use an empty yogurt container or whatever. Just dump it in there. I give each plant quite a bit of water. Now these are in fabric containers, so these are going to leak all over the floor. Not a big deal. Like I said, we have an old concrete floor. The water's not going to hurt it. We also have a dehumidifier down here that runs 24/7 on full. So the humidity level, the basement is only like 40%, 35%, which isn't crazy dry, but it's enough to dry it very quickly. I'm always kind of mounding up the dirt around the roots there. The water sometimes knocks it free, but the water will come out of the bottom of these fabric containers. But these fabric containers work amazing for trees because they can breathe. It root prunes them. When the roots hit the edge and hit air, they're going to sort of like branch off and grow down. So you just get a really nice root structure. They're cheap. These containers, these fabric pots, they're easy to move because they have handles. And I'm just showing that's 32 ounces. I give it probably like each plant like a good 2 or 3 of those. It's unscientific. I just sort of go until looks like it's watered. There's no. You would think maybe it's a little bit more scientific. Stick your finger in there when it feels moist. It's good. Now the potting mix in these, I use 50% Miracle Grow and 50% Perlite. So I get a big bag of perlite. I actually ordered on Amazon. It's like a 50-pound bag of perlite. It's huge. And that's plenty to do a whole bunch of these. And I just 50% Miracle-Gro potting mix and 50% perlite. And that's because you want it to drain really well. Citrus, see, this is a little tip. You get something like that in there, you take that out so you don't stab your eye in there when you're not looking. You know, if you're ducking around, poking around, and all of a sudden, bam, it's easy to poke your eye on stick like that, so be really careful. I've done, not on that one, but I have poked myself in the eye with branches doing stuff like this when you're in close and they're all around you. So you just got to be careful, or wear safety goggles. I usually do that if I'm outside. But just word to the wise, I've gotten poked in the eye before with citrus branch. Not very fun. So yeah, giving these Feijoas some water, but the reason you want that perlite in there is you want these to drain, especially in the summertime when it might rain 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row. Citrus trees do not like being wet. They don't want to be dried out either, but they don't want to be waterlogged. So your pots have to drain well, which is a great thing about those fabric pots is they're going to drain. All parts of them will drain and breathe, so you're not going to get waterlogged plants. These plastic pots have enormous drainage holes all the way around the outside, so that's what's really nice about them too. So give your plants lots of water, give them a well-draining pot, and some soil that will drain. You don't want to use straight-up potting soil. I mean, you can, it's fine, I've done that before, but it works better with the perlite just to give extra draining. So we're going to go get some more fertilizer mixed up. But you get the point. We're just going to go around and make sure everybody gets their water. So you can see they're kind of leaking everywhere. I wanted to mention before we end the video here in a few minutes that look around, there's really not a lot of leaves on the ground. There's really not a lot at all. I have not cleaned up the leaves once since I brought these in October. So there's too many plants to move, you know, so like I just leave them right where they are, and I haven't picked up any leaves, which means they're really not dropping a lot of leaves. Now this plant is, you know, kind of like not the healthiest looking, this lime, but it's getting some limes on it. It was one of those clearance plants that I got, and it's big, but it just has never looked great. Like these look amazing, all these lemons and that finger lime and stuff like that. So, you know, you just want to sort of think about like plants that are doing well. Kelmondins are easy to grow, as I mentioned. People say Meyer lemons are easy to grow. Now, I used to have a Meyer lemon tree, and we used to get tons of Meyer lemons, but ever since then, I think I have 5 of them now, and they're huge and healthy, but I've not got a single Meyer lemon. I'm hoping that changes. I think it will, because these are doing really well. These are the kumquats again, just loaded, but they're like little limes. This is a Lisbon lemon. This is a cool tree. It gets like the big, huge lemons. Not huge like round, but just large lemons. So it's got a lot of little baby fruit on it, so I'm hoping. Now it's done that a couple times, but sometimes trees will do that, drop them, and then a year or two later we'll finally keep the fruit and grow them to maturity. So I'm hoping these are like kind of like the grocery store lemon, I guess you could say, something similar to that. Just a big lemon, and that's what we want, you know, to cook with. We use lemons a lot and limes a lot. So thank you for watching. If you've been thinking about trying your hand at citrus trees, definitely give it a try. I mean, I've been doing this for a lot of years, so I've accumulated many of them, so I guess that shows they typically survive well in containers. And they're pretty forgiving, even if they drop all their leaves because you didn't give them enough light. You put them out in the spring, they'll generally just leaf right back out again. So citrus trees are a lot of fun. They're definitely worth trying. And I would do the Satsuma, a Kelmondin, or a Meyer lemon to start with, and I think you'll have pretty good luck, and you'll catch the bug. That's the thing. If you're someone who loves gardening, citrus trees are a fantastic and fun way to expand your gardening experience.